So I just seen this video on what Jonathan Kuminga needs to do in order to get the bag. We just seen Franz Wagner get the bag. We just seen Cade Cunningham get the bag. All guys from his same draft class. And if you looked at any of my videos from that draft, I literally said Jonathan Kuminga could end up the best player from that draft. I've said for a long time now that the NBA has this weird thing. I'm going to be 100% honest with y'all. A weird thing against African descent players. I'm going to be 100%. And the reason why I say that is because African descent players, especially those who are like born on the continent, right? Born in an African nation, come to the United States. They always have this like weird stigma where they like make jokes around, is their age really their age because they might be doing something with their birth certificate, or they're too skinny and they're not tough enough. All these stigma things, similar to how they used to do with like European international players, right? They don't play defense. They aren't tough enough to ever be a go-to guy, things like that, right? And so I felt like some of that was happening in that draft because when you look at a player of his talent, of his caliber, right? A 6'7", 220-pound man child reminds me of Amari Stoudemire coming out of the draft out of high school, right? Played for the G League, tore it up in the G League as the number one option on his team, despite having Jalen Green. Shows the ability to compete at a high level, a great motor, 40-inch vertical, elite, absolutely elite first step quickness, great lateral mobility. He rebounds, he blocks shots, he defends, he gets out in transition. He uses his athleticism extremely smoothly and intentionally with skill. And all they could seem to do was find all these little critiques. Will he shoot it well enough? Does he know the game well enough? Will it translate? And they poked all these holes in his game. And I kept saying, I'm like, yo, the fundamental foundational tools that this young man is already working with at the age of 18, 19 years old, coming to the draft from the G League Ignite program. Why are y'all picking so many holes that you overlook how phenomenal this prospect is? And so I did a video on how the Raptors should have grabbed Kuminga over Scotty Barnes. I love Scotty Barnes. I just think Kuminga is potentially a number one option on an NBA championship team, right? He's more athletic than Jaylen Brown and has a very similar game style, but even more polished coming into the draft, coming into the NBA, and at this point in his career, right? And if he ends up continuing on this trajectory, he can absolutely be an NBA Finals MVP. Those are extremely hard to find. And yet here we are after 3 years of trudging through Steve Kerr's kind of incompetence of figuring out how to utilize young players and creating playing time for them and fitting them into the system instead of building out opportunities within the system for them to maximize their skills like most quality above average head coaches can do, right? Shout out BJ Bickerstaff and Tyronn Lue and Eric Spoelstra who do that in spades, right? So, but instead of having a good coach to facilitate that development, he just pushed through and punched through the walls and ended up forcing himself into the starting lineup by being too damn good to take out. And now, after year three, when Cade Cunningham gets his extension, worthy of it. Franz Wagner gets his extension, worthy of it, right? Now all of a sudden here comes Kuminga and all of a sudden they want to put out videos on what he still needs to do. Well, let me just be 100% clear about what he needs to do. He needs to do nothing but what he's been doing, which is continuing to progress in his game and taking his natural evolutionary steps in his play. That's it. That's it. The same hard worker he was at 14, 15, 16 years old, coming over here from another country, from out of the United States, bouncing around to different high schools, thriving no matter what the situation, figuring it out no matter what the situation, what he has continued to do since then, and continues to do with the Golden State Warriors, and continues to do in this offseason, is be who he is. And when he steps in the next season, Golden State Warriors, you better hope that he doesn't make the All-Star game. Because if this young man makes the All-Star game, the max that he will demand is going to make you have to really look at the team that you are And you will really start having to look at the coach that you have in Steve Kerr. Because you cannot give someone like Jonathan Kuminga a max, a super max potentially, and then you still have a coach who doesn't know how to maximize his talent. You still can't look at Draymond Green and say, hey, you tell him what to do instead of he tells you what to do. All of a sudden now, he's not on Stephen Curry's level, but he's right there because the transitional stages within their careers are coming sooner than later, where Curry takes a step down and Kuminga will take that step up. Not to mention his homeboy Moses Moody. I've been telling you all about this kid since that same draft. Came out of the University of Arkansas, played with Cade Cunningham and Scotty Barnes at Montverde Academy. He's not a freak athlete, but he's an extremely high IQ player who plays with a great pace, who has a high level of skill, extremely hard worker, great positional size, great motor on defense. And he's been sitting there burning his fire to get his opportunity. Do you know what's going to happen if he gets midway through this season, carving out an opportunity for himself, forcing his way into 18 to 22, 24 minutes a game, and all of a sudden other teams start looking at him and go, whoa, 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 wait a second. Is this a starting level shooting guard? Could this be a Chris Middleton type of a mid-tier all-star level type player that's just sitting here? And then once again, you're going to have to look at he's been here the whole time and Steve Kerr just don't know what to do with him. And now you're going to have to pay him too. These questions are going to come up, but these things you guys should have already answered by now. And this has kind of been the frustrating point with the Golden State Warriors for me. I'm from the Bay Area. I can critique them. I've been rocking with them since Billy Owens, Chris Gatlin, Chris Mullins. So miss me with it. All right. But it's to say that you looked at Steve Kerr and it's like, look, you are stymieing the development of this team. You're stymieing them. And I'm going to be honest, I want to do a video on this a little bit later, but I'm just going to drop a little bit of it now. The Buddy Hield signing is another sign that Steve Kerr is not the man, not the coach for the future of this team, because of the fact that he does not know how to adjust. He doesn't know how to do something different or something new. He's not an X's and O's coach. He's not an adjustment coach. He's not a halftime coach. He's not a guy who's a schemer who has even systems. He is a management coach. He's the guy who comes in and does the Phil Jackson zen, but doesn't have Phil Jackson execution. And so as a result, now you don't have questions asked that you needed to have answered by now. You needed to know exactly what Moses Moody was before this season. You needed to know exactly how good Kuminga was before the season, because the shrewd business move would have been to know he needs a max contract. Then it makes it clear that Clay, hey, you're not it. And then matter of fact, Wiggins, you probably got to go too, because we got two studs that we need to move in and transition in this way. Shout out James Wiseman, because you should still have him too. Probably should have picked him up this offseason. But once again, you don't have the right guy at the helm. But as for Jonathan Kuminga, don't worry about him. Don't worry about what he needs to do. He needs to just be who he is. He's been a monster. He's been that dude that everybody's looking at and going, damn. If this boy starts getting consistent playing time, damn. If you had dropped this boy off in Charlotte, if you had dropped him off in Atlanta, if you had dropped him off in Brooklyn, if you had dropped him off anywhere else, he'd be an all-star, and we'd be talking about him like we're talking about Anthony Edwards. We'd be talking about him as a future all-star. We'd be talking about him as a generational talent. Instead, we're still trying to answer questions. So all I got to say is, if I'm you, Golden State Warriors, I'd lock him up sooner than later. I'd throw the full bag at him. Give him the Franz Wagner, because he's just as good, if not better, than him. And we all know offense rules the NBA, so yeah, he's definitely better. But as always, I want to know what you all think. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Definitely share the video in your group chats and let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm out. Peace.